Chair, we're good to go. Also, Councilmember Yarbrough sent her, she's traveling tonight, I think. Oh, everybody saw it. Great.
Okay, let's call to order the Monday, September 9th, 2024 Transportation Advisory Board for the City of Longmont. Let's do a roll call, please.
Chair Lehner.
Here.
Board Member Bennett.
Present.
Board Member Wicklund.
Here.
Vice Chair McKee Burrows.
Here.
Board Member McInerney.
Present.
Board Member Kalkoffer.
Here.
Board Member Kim.
Here.
Fantastic. For the benefit of Board Member Wicklund, we're going to do introductions again. Should we go around the room or should we just do the one new member?
You could also do introductions where you say a little bit more about your background, because we really missed that last time, was giving Alex any idea kind of where you're from and what what your background is.
Alex, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. I'm Alex Kalkoffer. I've been in Longmont since 2008. I'm on two boards, including this one, the Elks Lodge here in Longmont, as well as Community Action for Boulder County. Happy to be here.
My name is Garrison Bennett, and I am a transportation enthusiast who is also a special education teacher and occasionally a rideshare driver.
I'm Taylor Wicklund, born and raised here in town. I have spent some stints away, at least. Yeah, I've been a board member for, a little more than 2 years now. And then also chair of the Bike Issues Committee and co-founder of Launch Longmont Housing.
Gina McKee Burrows. This is my second year on tab, and I am from England, in case no one noticed my accent. I have lived in Longmont since 2019, Colorado since 2012, and I am a big bike enthusiast. That is my main form of commuting, so I'm all about bikes.
I'm Steve Lehner. Been a board member now this is the beginning of my second term. I think that's correct. I guess I'll say I'm a concerned citizen, cyclist, pedestrian, and motorist. So I guess I use all modes, and even a little bit of public transit when I can. That's about me.
I'm David McInerney. I'm in my fourth year as a board member. I became interested in the board when I read the Envision Longmont multimodal and comprehensive plan. I decided that the plan presents a positive direction for Longmont's future, and I wanted to help to implement it.
Hi, I'm Nick Kim. I've been in Longmont since 2022. I am an avid walker. I work from home, so I love just walking around the southeast side of Longmont. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Okay, let's get any comments and move to approving the minutes of the preceding meeting from August. Any questions or comments on the minutes from the August meeting? Okay, we can get a motion to approve those minutes. We can move on.
I will motion to approve the minutes from August 2024.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay. And we'll move on to number 5, communication from staff.
Great, thank you very much. Phil Greenwald, Transportation Planning Manager with the city. Just wanted to let you know, first of all, that Spring Gulch Trail opening, it's ready to roll. It's good to be all connected. I wrote it on Friday with my counterpart from the city of Boulders who wanted to see what we're doing here in Longmont. So that was exciting. It was a wonderful trail, a lot of great comments, positive comments. And so we're excited to finally get that link from the Greenway through Sandstone Ranch, which is a very popular place for kids to play all sorts of different activities and games and things. So, and then we've got that connected up through the school, through a middle school near there, elementary. And so, and into Jim's neighborhood. So we've got a connection for Jim to get right onto the trail now. So that's good. It's your favorite path, right? Spring Gulch. It's probably best. Good. As you also saw, there is, we do have a microtransit vendor finally. I'm looking at Board Member McInerney. So finally this morning I had a signed contract, so I was able to finally get the word out that Via Transportation, capital VIA, not our Via Mobility folks that also provide paratransit service, but we're hoping it'll be a good relationship between the two, as hopefully we'll be picking up some of those trips from older people with the microtransit, and they can focus more on the paratransit piece of that. So we're excited. I sent you all a link to the website, their website, and their specific issues about microtransit. So hopefully you'll take a look at that when you get a chance. I know that was probably sent about 4 o'clock this afternoon, so a lot of you didn't probably see it, but I wanted to make sure you had that connection. And then just want to let you know about an air show on Saturday. Make sure you know that part of my duties are also transportation planning and airport. So the airport is having it's kind of marquee event. It hasn't happened for about 4 or 5 years now because of COVID. So we're excited to get people back out to the airport and see what they're doing out there. And so those are exciting things. And then I wanted to invite Cammie to come up and just talk a little bit about where we are on the Vision Zero process and what those next steps are. So Cammie, if you don't mind.
There we go. Hello, board members. I have 2 pieces of what I hope you'll find is good news. The first is the SS4A grant that we applied for back in April for $1.2 million. We found out a few days ago we were awarded. So hopefully that means we are, under contract and with the feds by mid next year. We don't know how long it's going to take. It's been taking other communities about a year to complete the contracting process. But in the meantime, it's not going to slow our work with Vision Zero. We're going to go ahead and do a lot of the work in prep for the action plan. So by the time we get a consultant on board, they can just kind of tie it up and finish it off for us. And so part of that will be funding a camera project that I believe Kyle will be mentioning later tonight, a site distance study, and then our action plan. So good things to come. And then coupled with that is we are going to be launching the Vision Zero Task Force. So the first meeting is going to be in October. We're working with our communications team with the city right now to coordinate the public announcement about the opportunities to get involved in Vision Zero with the grant award. So all of that should be coming out in the next couple of weeks about how we're moving forward and ways to get involved. So you should be seeing that. So those are my 2 updates. Vision Zero Task Force launching, and we got some good money to spend coming up. So thank you. Any questions about those? No? Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry, that's it from staff. Thank you.
Okay, it does not look like we have any public here invited to be heard. And luckily no action items this meeting, as opposed to last meeting. So we'll move on to the information items. Kyle, I think you're up next.
There we go. So I'm Kyle Howarth. I'm the Traffic Engineering Administrator, City of Longmont. So I handle all the traffic signal systems and operations within the city. Very excited to present some information tonight regarding our new traffic signal upgrade. Staff been working on this for about last year and finally able to demonstrate some of the capabilities and updates from our previous system. So breaking up our department, this is just one section of what traffic engineering does. This will be the traffic signal operations portion of our department. Basically, we broke them down into 3 separate parts that all come down into our advanced traffic signal performance measures. If you've seen some literature before, ATSPM is a big hot word in kind of technology shows and how products are conveyed to cities of how can we improve transportation within your city. I've broken down into 3 separate options. One is signal operations, so how the signals work on a day-to-day basis, its reliability, and more of the logistics of keeping the maintenance and durability of the system going. Another section is vehicular and multi-mile flow. So that'd be how we move vehicles from point A to point B, as well as we're moving to Vision Zero, putting more emphasis on multimodal, as well as in the future, bus rapid transit. The last piece is safety and data analytics. So how do we utilize this system to tell us how the city's functioning, what improvements can be made, and also can we identify any issues preemptively and make those corrections to avoid any future accidents or collisions. So what all goes in a traffic signal? Often people think it's just a little computer that says red, yellow, green, and that's it. That can't be farther from the truth. There are several pieces in the graphic you see there. These are just a portion of some of the technology we utilize in our traffic signals. But today I'm going to simplify it. We'll keep it to number 8, which is the lower left bubble, which is our controller, which sits inside our traffic cabinet. So we see some steel boxes on the side of the road. That's our traffic cabinet. That is the computer of the system. It handles the timing and coordination and also gives us the real-time status of each signal, as well as monitors equipment for faults. The second piece is number 10. It's the top red bubble. That would be our detection. So there's a lot of different detection systems out there, anything from visual to radar. And in this case, we are utilizing infrared detection. Basically, this detection will detect vehicles, send a controller like someone's waiting, and it will give them a green light until they clear, and they'll switch back to the normal phasing. And then coming back is the whole traffic signal management system we have, which is our traffic signal management system. Tells us the current status, the coordination of the city. So as you go through the corridor, what's green, what's red, calls for service, as well as remote management. So I can view traffic signals from here, from across the state, from my office, and out in the field. Our traffic signal techs also use this system, so they're able to monitor everything in the field or also if they're in a bucket, so they don't have to go back down and see how adjustments are made without wasting time. And now, why are we talking about signals? So I'm from about 2 years of being in this position, and I've heard from residents, commuters, tab members, city council, as well as fellow staff members about what's going on with traffic in Longmont. It's crazy. They might experience inconsistent cycles, such as I was waiting for a light, skipped me, never got the green, I had to wait a whole another cycle or even 2 cycles to get green. It turned green for 2 seconds and then let go, let 2 cars through, and there's a queue of 20. I waited for 20 minutes for a green, I never got it. As well as pedestrian safety measures as well. Too short to cross the road, I don't have time to cross. As well as I pressed the button, never got a call. And then we'll be brushing up on our citizen maintenance and response to changes as well, but you probably don't care much that as safety measures. So our current network we have right now is called Rhythm in Sync. This system was installed in 2017, and this system was installed in the corridors of Main Street or US 287, Karen Pratt Boulevard, or State Highway 118, Hoover Street, and Nelson Road. Since we have this equipment in here, it's been about 7 years. The equipment life for this system is 5 to 7 years. It's very typical of any equipment that's out in the field. It deteriorates, it gets hot, it gets cold, it goes out, and that's part of that maintenance piece I talked about earlier. After evaluating the system, we had some faults that were identified, and it started becoming more of a snowball effect of what we're dealing with as our traffic system deteriorated. Got more equipment failures, unpredictable behavior when things did fail. So red light, green, flashing lights, you couldn't tell rhyme or reason, which made diagnosing hard. Short cycles, skip calls, and the hardest part of this system is access. So this system does not allow city staff to make changes to the timing or evaluate what the system is doing in real time. It goes basically to a black box. We don't know what's doing until it shows us in real time how it's maintaining traffic. Nothing with control is we can't adjust timing plans without contacting the outside support. So if you feel like the light's too short, we need more time on the left-hand turn, pedestrian retimings, we have to go through a separate service to get that done, and that ends up being very costly. The cost for each signal for a new build is about $20,000 additional cost to a normal build. Plus, the support is usually about $250 an hour per signal, so per issue. So if there's multiple issues we have, we're spending lots of money for someone to fix our own system where we could have city staff more efficiently and put more care into maintaining and fixing the system. So the new system we're switching to is called Centrax Adaptive. The city standard right now is to use Econolite equipment in our traffic cabinets. Part of Econolite's range of offerings is the Centrax management software, which is basically our monitoring software that lets us see all the signals in real time, coordination, and be able to see the status of each signal, whatever may be the issue. That support is included within the licensing agreement. That doesn't cost additional per signal. It's a single fee, yearly subscription fee that is way more acceptable in terms of cost. The biggest benefit, there is no additional equipment needed for this system. So as we get new signals get taken out, or equipment goes bad, there is not additional equipment that's needed that can and will go wrong. So that simplifies our replacement, response times, and also diagnosis. Opposed to rhythm, it gives us the exact data that is happening at the signal. So how long the signal's green, how many vehicles are detected, how long did that signal last. If we ask for reports, we can give you the exact time and how long that light was green for. Along with this, it comes with a new adaptive system, which can adapt in real time by adjusting the cycle times and as well as the offsets, which basically there's a master clock, and do I give the signal 5 more seconds in front of this signal, and how long does it get to point A to point B? This can be adapted in very short intervals, so it can adapt to weather, major events like accidents, as well as everyone's favorite summertime hobby, construction. So signal coordination, we'll go through this one a little fast. Basically, we have each signal talk to each other and tell you, I'm turning green now. In 10 seconds, you need to turn green, so you let this platoon of vehicles go. Platoon of vehicles is just a section of vehicles that are grouped together so we can push through. Let's see if this works. So here we got a little infographic. You can see the light's about to turn green. This platoon of vehicles goes, and it's able to get that platoon through the intersection without turning red. Basically, that's what that entire system does, is it keeps those vehicles going straight through without stopping. We try our best to coordinate. There are some things that come into play when we're trying to get vehicles through as much as possible. But with the help of the adaptive system, that allows us, instead of micromanaging each signal by one person, we can have the system continually update and be able to look at the system as a corridor and not per intersection. Some other signal coordination options are free, which is basically first come, first serve. So you'll notice late at night where you just pull up to a signal, it just gives you the green right away, then you go, then it switches back. That's basically free mode. There's no coordination involved. Another section of signal coordination is preemption. Basically, it's saying switch this to green. EMS, PD, as well as trains use this system to respond to calls faster, or in the event of trains, delay traffic even further. In the future, we're looking at buses for bus rapid transit, where buses can be equipped with this technology, where we can have buses go through intersections and corridors faster based on what time they arrive at the signal. So we're talking about our new detection system, which is called the FLIR AI traffic cameras. Benefit of infrared technology is that it removes lots of issues that normal optical cameras will have. You'll notice sometimes you might not get green because of sun glare. Nighttime objects will not be detected normally. Headlights can cause issues, as well as light objects such as motorcycles won't be detected for underground loops. The system also eliminates a lot of issues when it comes to fog or weather events, where compared to other systems, it will maintain detection way longer than optical detection over snowstorms. Another benefit is this new system gives us the ability to detect pedestrians, vehicles, and bicyclists separately. So before, it was just a single zone. You can't detect whether it's a vehicle, pedestrian, or a bicyclist waiting for service. This system will detect and classify individual objects. Now, basically, can't go with that. So here's the fun stuff. So part of this is called smart tracking. It's part of the AI part of the camera. So it can detect individual objects as well as trajectories and then be able to assume which zones is going to light up sooner. So then it can give that service a lot more efficiency. So watch the video. This is at 11th and Main. As you can see in the boxes, it's like individual objects with a car, and then you'll see some vans on top area. As it can classify better vehicles, it will change it to a car or a van. As well as you see the person walking, that's part of that person detection, where we can see where the person's walking, what trajectory they're taking, and be able to assume some detection plans. So if we know they're coming to a crosswalk, it can make some assumptions of whether a person's inside the crosswalk and may need more time to cross. Part of the detection, you'll see two separate areas. So the left side, this is at 3rd and Main. One side just has the car tracking with speeds, and the right side has what we have some zones drawn out with what the vehicles are picked up and calls for service. There's many zones. Not all of them light up for a reason. Basically, we have different setups for different scenarios. So if you don't see them light up, it's not because they're not working. It's just there's certain criteria it has to meet before it gets lit up. So you see on the left hand, the left picture, you see a motorcycle pulling up. It's able to classify that as a motorcycle, and be able to see where it stops, how fast it's going, and where it's waiting. And you see on the right side is another motorcycle. That's light detection zone, which means it's a presence. It'll give it green. And then as the cars go through, it starts tracking the speed. And in the background, that little tracker is still running, so it has the direction, and so it knows those people are turning left. As the green is given, these people will start accelerating here soon. There we go. And as they're passing through there on the reverse side, you'll see car, motorcycle, and what speed they're going at. So all this information gets transmitted back to us, so we can get all that lane by lane counts, speed, direction, and be able to provide some really good analytics for safety improvements. This would be someone's favorite, bicycle detection. This is the same time frame, but we have, if you look at the left picture on the left-hand side, you'll see a couple people riding bicycles across the intersection, and it's able to identify that it's two separate bicyclists and what direction they're going. So we would be able to customize traffic signal phasing in the future for bicycle traffic, pedestrian traffic, as well as car, vehicle, large trucks, anything you think of, we can customize it and be able to implement more efficient traffic flows. And then that brings us to data logging. So basically, this system will log every 1/10 of a second of what's happening at a traffic signal. That's everything from when it's green, when it's red, yellow, what vehicles are detected, when it detects it. It will collect that information and send it back to us so that if we need to pull data, we have that information. You'll see on the bottom left graphic, this is at 3rd and Main for the westbound direction. And basically we'll go top to bottom. So the top blue line, that's me volume. That's counting how many cars go through that intersection within that time period. The next one is the solid red line. That's the time the signal was red. So we can see if you have a complaint about this light has been red for too long, we can see how long the light was actually red. The light below that's yellow. We can see how long it was yellow and how long that yellow light was on. So if there's any indiscrepancies, we can actually identify those right away and get that issue resolved. Below that is green, so we can see how the green times and how many are allotted throughout the day. So if we see that a signal is cutting green times at the max and we need to extend those green times, we can see that. But in this case, you can see that there's kind of dips and waves. So you can see that signal is not maxing out its time. So we know that there's not an overload of service there. And it's hard to see on this. You might be able to see on your packet. But below is a bunch of little black dots. Those are vehicle detections. So every time a vehicle is detected, it'll show up in that little dot. So if I get a complaint that I wasn't detected, I can see if a vehicle was detected, how long they had to wait, and when it turned green. In addition, this also brings information with pedestrian detection. So in the previous one, we don't know if a pedestrian pushed a button or not. Now we do. You'll see on the right-hand graphic little triangles. So this is the same area. So the ones on the top are ones for the westbound pedestrians. So that would be the north crosswalk. And it'll tell you how long that pedestrian had to cross.
I got a question.
Yep. Sorry.
You're saying now you know when ped calls are made? You didn't know that before?
That old system did not retrieve information for us.
Really?
Really.
Okay.
Hence the change. So now when we have a pedestrian involved incident, we know if they press the button for sure. And the ones on the bottom that show no time, those are for reverse calls of service. So it's not part of that phase, but lets us know that there is someone on the south side. So if I change that screen to show the south crosswalk, it would reverse the sides. So it's not showing us there is zero time. In addition, I know everyone loves waiting for trains in Longmont. It happens about 20 times a day. Not that much, but with this new system, we can actually now log and record how long each request for service was between railroad, PD, and any other EMS requests. So you'll see on the right side a couple examples of our initial system. It'll tell us total amount of pre-hunt time, the average pre-hunt time, and how many total requests were throughout that one day or any specific time period. In addition, it'll tell us exactly what time it turned on and how long it was on. So we can definitely, forward information on trains, or if it happened just to be a, police response for service. And even further, with just the traffic data I was talking about, we collect even further information on travel time. So with this camera system comes integrated with a system called a Cyclica, which is another service at no cost. It's included in the system. Basically, it uses Wi-Fi to detect travel times and the routes that were taken. Basically, it takes any Wi-Fi device you have, phone, iPod, even Wi-Fi in cars, and is able to assign a unique identifier to that and be able to track where it goes through intersections. As soon as you're in the system, it just counts as a fallen off point. It does not collect any personal data. It works through MAC addresses. So anytime your device is looking for a Wi-Fi network, it's reaching out with its MAC address and saying, hey, on this device, can you read me? That system takes that number. It will give its own unique code, and then it will purge it when it leaves the system. So there's no data collection. We can't see what device it was or how long it was there. It's completely anonymized. This information gives us a ton of data analytics when it comes to travel. So it'll give us, in addition to what the previous system does, it gives us more redundancy as well. It gives us vehicle counts, per lane counts, as well as classifications, delays, vehicle miles traveled, origin destination, which is basically saying I started, let's say, at Hoover and 119. What percentage of cars went north? What percentage of cars went east? What percentage of cars went to 119 and Main Street and then went to Pike? We'll be able to see that information and see how people move throughout the city. As well as congestion metrics, which also includes CO2 emissions and as well as idling emissions. So when we're making changes, we can see the environmental impact these changes have, either improving or degrading as we change timings during our Vision Zero process. You'll You'll see on the bottom left is our travel time. This is Main Street from Pike to US 66. You can see that changes throughout the day, but that information is being collected on a 24-hour basis, and we're able to see those travel times and how it changes week to week, day to day, hour to hour. It goes up to a 5-minute resolution, so we can see definitely how people move out throughout the day. I know it's a lot of information. Are there any questions?
I got a lot. How many of the corridors in the city are coordinated?
Based off time of day. So
Which ones?
US 287, Main Street, State Highway 119 and slash Kempat Boulevard, Hover Street, and let's see, Pike, 3rd, 9th, 17th, Pace, and Francis. I think that's it.
Those are all the coordinated ones?
Yes.
Okay. Are you running adaptive on those as well, or just adaptive on 287, Ken Pratt, Hover, and
Nelson.
And Nelson?
Just those ones.
Okay, and Nelson wasn't completely adaptive. I think it was just the bookended of the signals on either side. Is that correct?
All but one. So 75th Avenue in Nelson, Grandview Meadows, Disc, and then Hover and Nelson.
Okay. How does adaptive help with other modes other than automobiles?
So that's a big change from this current system to a new system. The old rhythm system, it was designed to move cars along the mainline traffic. So a great example is 3rd and 119. Big, busy intersection, a lot of people turning left. What would happen is if a pedestrian came to that intersection, press the button, the system basically says, I want to make 119 move as fast as possible. And how it does that is I'm going to take that left turn time from the cars that have been waiting, give that to the pedestrian so that I can get back to the mainline traffic. The issue what happens is it doesn't give pedestrians enough time to cross. It's a big intersection. But also it decreases compliance of the signal. So people, if they get short cycled, they're more likely to run that signal with the next phase because they've already waited a cycle.
How does Centrax do it differently?
Centrax has fixed timing. So there's a minimum, there's a maximum, but also we have control of how that system functions.
But fixed timing isn't adaptive.
No. So the problem with fixed timing is if you program it to fixed timing, if there is no call to service, it will automatically go back. So I was just this earlier summer, went to Portland for vacation, and they do run fixed timing on their corridors. The issue with that is if there's no room for service, you're stopping cars inadvertently and that they don't need to stop, or in Portland's case, a lot of bicyclists. So people are stopping for no good reason. That's why we have call it actuated, where if it sees someone, it will change it. If not, it'll keep to the main phase or the main corridor to decrease the stoppages.
So I'll go back to my original question. How does the Centrix adaptive system help other modes other than cars?
So we can set up this system to basically move each individual mode separately, but also together. So this old system was made for cars to make cars move faster. This new system with the new detection lets us customize that functionality from signal to signal and from corridor to corridor. So a good example is our Main Street right now in our downtown. We have implemented leading pedestrian intervals. So previous system, you couldn't do that. New system, you can. And basically, like 4th Main is a good example. You press the button, it will hold traffic all red. I believe it's for 6 seconds. So it gets most people mostly across the road and makes it more visible of who's out in the road. We've done this also at our major intersections to decrease the visual clutter at the intersections, so you know that somebody is not in a car and is somewhere else in the road. So it really differentiates that mode of transportation and makes people more aware, hopefully more aware of their presence.
So the Centrax adaptive system is actually changing the timing of your PED phases.
For the most part, it keeps the min and max times, but what it does is it alters the offsets, and then the whether it adds or subtracts time from the off cycles. So it can get things back in track a bit faster than a non-adaptive system.
So you're saying the Centrix adaptive system is adding time to PED phases when it needs to?
Yes.
Okay. As well as for cyclists?
Yes.
Because LPI is not a part of adaptive. LPI is a different, really, concept, correct?
This system lets us integrate the LPIs into the adaptive system now.
Okay. I noticed the PTZ cameras at intersections. Are they at intersections or at the schools where there are the pickup and the drop-off zones? Because I believe the school drop-off and pickup zones are separate from intersections.
Yep. So the PTCs are separate. We have a few in select location, I think 13, I believe. But they're have been placed in previous areas where we have seen reason to observe traffic. Or if you go onto the website, we do have a snow cam options for people to view those live streams to see roadway conditions. I would have a slide for this, but we do have a new update on another grant that we applied for last year under the Safe Routes to School grant. Basically, we were awarded $1.25 million for 23 intersection upgrades with this detection, which also includes PTZ cameras.
So that's my question. PTZ cameras aren't at intersections. You said they're at drop-off and pickup zones. Is that correct? Where are they at?
They're at intersections.
Okay, so they're not at pickup and drop-off times or zones.
We do not have cameras on school facilities,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
right. So how do the PTZ cameras help city staff better evaluate areas during school drop-off and pickup times?
So part of that grant is to install in select areas where we have the existing infrastructure, such as traffic signals, where we can feed those lines back to our servers. And part of that is to better observe traffic on a more daily basis versus having to physically go out there and observe traffic with the city staff. Allows us to view speed up footage so we can evaluate more days a lot more efficiently.
So you have PTZ cameras and detection, the FLIR detection, the infrared?
Yes.
Okay, so no thought about doing a bell shape like a MyoVision that would do both PTZ and detection?
We have explored those options. A big deal breaker would be they would require extra equipment into the cabinet. And also it also runs our controllers a bit more than I'd like to. The FLIR system acts more as a vehicle actuator, and it leaves the controller doing most of the work.
Okay, I've got a lot here. So what technology was being used before? Because you're saying that this is new technology to procure this. You didn't have detection at these 23 intersections prior?
No, we did. A big issue with how this rhythm system was implemented was rhythm requires that their own source code be put onto the cameras. And so we did utilize infrared detection before, but the way they did it was they basically flashed old cameras and put their own user interface on there. So you lost all functionality of anything native to that traffic camera, which made it worse. So if you saw a lot of Hover's a great example. A lot of cross traffic goes through there, bigger trucks. It lights up zones on opposite sides, so that's why you might get a green for no one being there.
But how does Hover have to do with anything with schools? Like a school on Clover Basin didn't have rhythm installed there.
No.
So what detection did you have there prior?
Currently out there, it's called it's a FLIR TraffiSense 2 camera. But that camera is basically zone detection. It doesn't have those features where it detects individual objects. And what brings this new technology a great improvement is a pedestrian doesn't necessarily have to be in the zone for us to make a current, controller call based on their direction.
So are these 23 intersections all near schools?
Yes, routes to schools.
Okay. And how many of those had adaptive?
The ones there do not have adaptive.
So none of them had rhythm associated with them?
No.
Okay, but you just said that they did prior. So I'm just trying to...
Those are separate. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay.
The ones we had upgraded are on top of the ones that we were placing on Rhythm. So these are brand new detection that are bringing those safety features and analytics to our traffic signal system.
Okay. Let me jump to something else here. You make a note in here about predictable vehicle phases. Can you define that?
Yeah. So what I can go back to that slide you saw. This one,
Sure.
maybe?
Yeah.
Well, no. So the biggest issue with this Rhythm system is it doesn't keep the driving experience consistent for drivers. So it may be, especially for cross traffic, is, okay, one cycle I might get 20 seconds green at, let's take 9th and Hoover, for example, a very busy intersection. And then the next cycle, I got stopped there, but the next cycle, it was 3 seconds. So then I get stopped, and then that next cycle, people are more likely to run it because they got short cycle, when they had to wait for a cycle, and then they had to, gun it to make the light. So everyone behind that line may not adhere to the traffic signal as much as we'd like. And with this, because of how the system works, it doesn't really deduct time that short. It will fulfill that phase based on the queue size. So if there's a longer queue, it will give that more time. And if it needs to readjust time, it will find that whether it's in phases that aren't used or maybe were ended earlier based on this detection.
Okay. Next question is going to be, the SPM is a lot of data.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, and this is actually coming from Utah and the University of Utah, they said it's really more about vehicle movement than anything else. So my question to you is, how are the data sets that you develop with SPM going to help with Vision Zero?
Yep. So that's the big thing, having that classification, is now we can see vehicles, types of vehicles, as well as we are detecting pedestrians within crosswalks and bicycles in lanes and in crosswalks. So we'll be able to see what that use is. So at certain intersections where, let's say, we may expect a bicyclist to use the existing road that has a bike lane, but we see that 50% of bicyclists are using the crosswalk by the sidewalk and not the bicycle lanes. That could inform us to maybe make some adjustments to the bicycle lanes, maybe provide some more protections, and really, find out why bicyclists, pedestrians, or motorists are doing the things that they're doing.
So with this ATSPM, what are you using as a decision support system? Because really SPM is just a lot of data. Or
Yes.
What system is really your decision support system for that? Is it all manual?
So I guess what we do with that data.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to right into our Vision Zero action plan, which is great timing on this update, plus how we're updating Vision Zero. And when we're talking about the community of what changes you want to see, and there may be areas where there may not be a lot of pedestrian activity, or there might be areas where we don't think we see a lot of bicyclists, but it turns out we see a lot of bicyclists. And we're able to see those intersections and those volumes, so we can really focus those projects to prioritize areas that are being utilized more, but also in those areas that are high injury network.
Okay. And then the money being spent for near miss and event detection at high injury intersections. Do you have already a vendor in place that you're going to be buying? Because it says here for the procurement consultant assisted evaluation. Mm-hmm. Or are you still looking at...
I have a second presentation coming up that will explain that.
Okay. That's good to know. And then my last question is, let me find it here. Have you worked at all with public safety to discuss speed corridors, much like the city of Fort Collins?
Yes.
Great.
We're in active talks right now, and we'll present some more information in the very near future.
Okay. All right. Great. That's my questions. Anybody else?
On the smart tracking, you can see part of the roadway, so you can see the side that the traffic is facing. And you said that it can detect pedestrians, but what happens if the pedestrian's on the other side?
So we have 4 cameras at each intersection. So this is only one camera in one direction.
But if the pedestrian's on the other side of that crosswalk, there's a camera that's going to be able to detect that.
So this is
pedestrian?
for southbound traffic. We also have a camera that's pointing for eastbound traffic that captures that crosswalk as well.
So that blind spot will be captured?
Yes.
Okay. And then you also detected speed. If you see vehicles driving too fast, would the lights be able to synchronize and either present a red light if somebody's going too fast to slow traffic down? Or are you only detecting speed? What are you detecting speed for?
So these do not change the signal based on speed, but what we can do is set up detectors based on speed. So as we're going to different sections of the town, we can say, don't turn this detector on unless you're going below 45 miles per hour.
So if somebody's going 45 and a 25,
Yep.
you can change a light further down the path?
No.
No. Okay.
But we can also, if it's already red, we can hold that red until they're going the acceptable speed.
Okay. Great, thanks. And then, let's see. On the adaptive networks, what are the green and white dots? If you go slide 6.
Slide 6. So that basically that's the status of each light. So does work? No, never mind. So this is actually a picture from earlier this year from our rhythm system. So each white dot is our controller in free. That's what I talked to earlier. That's that first come, first serve. But this what comes with the issue with, that works. This is the issue we had with rhythm is it basically to make it work, our controllers all have to be in free. And that means that all our signal performance measures are disabled. It does not give us any information that is pretty relevant to what actually is happening with traffic. The green dots are coordinated. So you see these corridors are coordinated. And then all these rhythm, and this is when we were building the Harvest Moon light. So that's blue because it means it's offline. So the current view I have right now is most of these are green during the day.
And then for the new controllers or the new system that you're proposing, is there real-time adjustments or are you only looking at data, historical data to make changes in the future?
Yeah, so great example today. There was an accident at I-25 and 52. So outside Longmont, so we have no clue what's happening, but all of a sudden we have a influx of people coming on 119 through town. County Line Road 1 was backed up all the way to Fairview. And previously we can't adjust those timings. From my desk, I can hold that controller green remotely to let traffic through. And as soon as I get those kind of impulses of people through, I can resume the normal timing. So in events where we get some weird influx of people, we can make those manual adjustments so that traffic can start flowing normally again. This is also utilized, or could be utilized, it wasn't installed yet, during the Lions fire that happened in beginning of August, where we had evacuations from Lions through Highway 66. In that case, we can make faster adjustments to let more people through and hold hover traffic so we can get people evacuated faster.
And then is there staff that's on call for this? Because what happens if it's during non-business hours?
Yep. So we have traffic signal technicians who are on call. They take shifts of who's on call, who's not. And then if any other assistance is needed, I'm always available. So my phone's never off.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Kyle. Good job presenting. Lots of information.
Yep. Sorry, it was too much information at once.
No, it was a lot. My question's about rhythm and where's the historic data going? Like, is it ours? Is it the city's? Are we going to be able to extrapolate or compare it to our new systems data?
Yep. So we've actually been utilizing Sept.9 for a little bit now in separate units. That was installed previously by previous engineers. So we're actually able to save a lot of that travel time data and then have it directly integrate into our new data. But since we have more intersections loaded, we can actually get higher resolution and see what the speeds, volumes are from intersection to intersection.
And this has all happened now. Rhythm's no longer happening.
We have about 2/3 of the city converted right now. Right now, we don't have Hover from basically Pike to Highway 66. We've been utilizing operational dollars to fund this project. So this has not been an additional ask from for the city. And then Hover's planned to be upgraded at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Oh, okay. That was my follow-up question. It's like,
Yep.
when do you think it'll be all done? Cool. And you said it's like no new equipment, right?
So we're buying new cameras and then upgrading our new controller / upgrade or buying new ones. But the software and the adaptive portions of it require no additional equipment. So we're not incurring any extra costs when we're installing new traffic signals.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. That was a very informative presentation. Just one thing, for my dictionary of acronyms, what is a PTZ camera?
Pan, tilt, zoom.
Pan tilts.
So move in all directions. And then,
Thank you.
yep.
Hi, just a few questions. Thank you for the presentation. What is the price difference between the two different systems?
So, man, I got rid of that slide. So basically, a big decision maker for this system was it was failing, and presumably the entire system for Rhythm would have to be replaced within the next couple years. Based on the costs and support that required to get that operational, we're looking at, I think, close to $3.5 to $4 million for the system. To upgrade the system, get brand new detection, and to be on adaptive is about a $2 million project. But that secures all our licensing agreements for 5 years. So there's no additional cost for 5 years to run this the new system. After that, it's a fraction of the cost. I believe it runs about $20,000 a year for the software agreement versus Rhythm was $1,500 per intersection per year. So before we had about 57 of them, times that by 1,500. I mean, we're looking about, I think, $75,000 a year to use this system versus 20. That does not include hardware costs, which for a new signal, just for the Centrex stuff, it would be about $4,500 for a new signal. To install the Rhythm equipment would be about 16 grand. And that's also in the same event if a signal cabinet gets run over by a car.
Okay, thank you for those
Yep.
numbers. It seems like those seem like pretty big numbers to me.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, I know it's probably no surprise, but have you taken into account those types of figures of like the long-term running costs of traffic signals versus just converting them to a roundabout?
Yeah. So this project at $2 million is upgrading 55 current signals. We're leaving 2 on Nelson Road based on operating dollars. We'll probably get those done with Hover beginning of the year. But we're looking at $2 million. That may cover a small roundabout in a very undeveloped area of town versus this one covers major corridors within the city and provides lots of improvements for many vehicles and many pedestrians and many bicyclists throughout the city.
Okay. So it's still cheaper, even when you take into account the long-term running costs.
Yep. And this project basically started about a year ago and we're almost done versus any roundabout. We'd be still in the design phase for any roundabout.
Okay. And what about the maintenance for those?
The maintenance is another plus is with the Rhythm system, we had about 7 pieces of equipment just for the rhythm system, plus 4 camera detectors. With the Centrac system, there's no additional equipment that we wouldn't already have in the controller or in the cabinet.
And what are the general costs for that maintenance?
Like I said, over the equipment on those is about every 5 years. So we're looking basically that plus the cameras, 20, probably about $45,000 per intersection.
Every 5 years?
Every 5 years, yes.
Okay.
Based on the rhythm system. In my experience with the Centrac system, we've had controllers that have been out there for 10 to 15 years and they've been functioning perfect. Another benefit is instead of replacing, like Chairman Lehner alluded to, is they have detection cameras that can do an entire intersection. Those prices are comparable to doing the separate FLIR AI detection. The benefit we have is if that one camera goes bad, we replace one camera, not all 4. If a camera goes bad in, you might see technology like GridSmart, MyoVision, if their camera goes bad, we have to replace that entire system. And so that cost just rises up for maintenance.
Okay. It just seems like there is a lot of ongoing costs. Like it's not a free thing.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. And one benefit of this project was it was based on existing dollars. So we're not, incurring more money requests from the general fund to fund this project.
Okay. I always like to bring up roundabouts every time, just
Yep. Nope.
because they are the safest thing to have. So you talked about, I'm just going to switch topic a little bit. For the signal coordination between different intersections, that's just for cars, right? It doesn't take into account like a slower moving vehicle like a bike.
That'd be correct. The hardest thing about bikes is speeds can vary greatly for bicyclists. So how a lot of the initial timings are set is based on vehicle average running speed. So we know from point A to point B, how long it would take a vehicle to start up, go, get up to speed, and then by the time they get to the light, what point that needs to turn green to have them move through the intersection. The hardest thing about bikes is it could be someone who's very, big biker, it can go 15, 20 miles per hour, or it might be someone taking a leisurely stroll going, 10 miles per hour. It's very hard to predict when they're coming through that intersection. When we talked about Vision Zero, there is possibilities when we're looking at coordination timing to add in bicycle facilities based on maybe if we dedicate corridors, but that'll be based on Cammie's Vision Zero plan.
Okay. So I have experienced this many a time where I go from intersection, then I stop, and then the next intersection, I have to stop. It's pretty annoying as a cyclist that you go from stopping at
It isn't really for cyclists.
No, it's not for cyclists, so it's not really multimodal, really.
Yeah, and when we have Kaufman busway start up, there may be some options to maybe focus that more on because we know buses and multimodal users are going to be the majority of the users of that road, and it's not really designed to be a car road. We can have further discussions about how we want that corridor to function for bicyclist travel.
Okay. So you're detecting by IR, right?
Yep.
Is there a maximum temperature for that IR detection?
I believe it's -30 to 140 degrees
Okay.
Fahrenheit.
I work in Celsius, so that's maybe
-60 to
like 45. I'm just
75.
75. That sounds really hot.
Well, 140 is pretty hot.
Is that right? I have no idea. I didn't work in Fahrenheit.
To very cold to very hot.
Okay. I was just wondering, the only reason why I'm asking is we're going to be having a warming heat mapping system. With the heat maps in Longmont, some areas are pretty hot, especially during the day. Like the tarmac can get really hot. So I was just wondering, is there a point where the IR just no longer works because it just gets so hot?
You can actually calibrate it based on what you want to detect. So we do have some areas that do get pretty warm. Good example I can think of right now is at 3rd and Pace. There's a great fence that kind of goes into our detection view. And when it gets really hot, that fence heats up really good. We're actually able to, it's called masking. So it's basically I just tell the camera, hey, you see this area? Ignore it. And just focus on the road. And so it detects whether there's a vehicle. So the nice thing about vehicles is anything from the engine to the wheels to the windshield. That's generally cooler if you're running the AC. It can detect those a lot easier because of the temperature difference.
Okay. So is there data out that tells you that it's actually safer to have the pedestrian light go first and then the light changes for the traffic? Like, is there actual data that says that actually is a safer method?
Yes, I can't quote exact numbers off the top of my head, but I know NACTO is a lot of federal funded studies that do say leading interval times do increase safety.
Okay, because it's actually decreased my safety, I would have to say. I get run over way more now than I was before. Like, cars will, because they wait, and then they're just getting annoyed because they can see that all the lights are red, and then they just try and gun it around when they have a left turn.
Yeah, and we're some new standards for Vision Zero, but the goal is to have motorists wait and be like, oh, why is it still red? Look around and be like, oh, someone's crossing, because normally they would have to yield anyway to a pedestrian crossing if it turned green right away. So they're not saving any time if it's red. But it gives them a moment of pause of something different's happening, so you should be observant around your surroundings versus I'm just waiting for the green to go.
Okay. I'm just following on from that. Since you can detect pedestrians and bicyclists in that intersection, and you can control when the lights turn, can you just make it so that those pedestrians and cyclists can just get across the entire intersection before you change the lights?
With this new system, that's part of that new standards and getting more community feedback of how things should function. And then also with the data we're receiving, we can see how loaded the intersection is and be able to make those adjustments.
Okay.
So I'd say yes, there is a great possibility.
So like if it was a pedestrian who needed lots of extra time to cross, and the lights traditionally just go way too fast for them, and it would stop the lights turning at all.
Yep. So the goal would be to hold all red until the intersection is clear.
Okay. Because that would, in theory, make it safer.
Yes.
In theory. And would that be for left turning and right turning, or just left?
So that'd be based on pedestrian presence. So it would be based on the car detection. It'd be based on pedestrian detection.
But I mean, for cars turning right, would it stop them too?
Yeah, it would hold red.
But cars can turn right on a red.
Currently, yes, but through Vision Zero, that's a fun thing we're evaluating our standards.
So it doesn't. It only stops the ones turning left, really. And right now.
Well, technically, at a red light, even if it's right turn on red, they still have to yield to oncoming traffic, which a pedestrian would be considered oncoming traffic. But
maybe.
through Vision Zero, we're looking at having some more options in our toolbox, and be able to have more of a clear flow of what is put at an intersection and why it is. So Vision Zero is part of that plan to make a standard and make that more of a force instead of I'll just put it here, put it here, put it here, put it here.
Okay. Because I think that just delaying it is just kind of just delaying a possible collision. I don't know that it's, I mean, maybe it does help a little bit, but ultimately
You should
you're
watch my next presentation.
Okay. And you've already answered my last question. What was that other question?
I'll ask again. I
Okay.
got two of them more. So
Okay.
You're good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle.
Yep, no problem. Let's see.
Well, I guess it's my turn. It's pretty simple. I think a follow-up on the roundabout. I understand, it's more cost to actually build the roundabout and destroy an intersection. But let's say we did have a city of a few actually modern roundabouts. Wouldn't you argue then it would be cheaper to then maintain over the lifetime of that existing compared to every 5 to 7 years? The technology has to be upgraded.
Yes, so that's one benefit of roundabouts is that less maintenance.
Yeah.
One thing that we run into a lot of the corridors we're talking about tonight is we don't actually own the roadway.
Right.
So making those changes is very hard. The areas we don't, I would say during Vision Zero, that's a discussion we can have and have a more community force to having roundabouts. I am an advocate of roundabouts. We are pushing for roundabouts in several areas of our development review discussions. So I would love to see more roundabouts in Longmont.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that point. And then also just from the video we saw of the pedestrian, person walking, obviously we can't predict what they're doing, if they're going to take a right, stay on the sidewalk, or they want to cross the road. So they are essentially forced to always press the beg button. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know, it gets, I just see like it's hard in like the downtown area where we used to not have to press, and I've been hearing a lot of complaints around that of it's like, oh, now there's an extra step involved.
Yeah, and we can talk about be more standardization for Vision Zero.
Okay.
But my philosophy right now would be it makes pedestrians more predictable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you see a person, they'll just kind of walk across the road and then all of a sudden just veer.
Yeah.
And for a motorist, that's very unfair on them because they believe it's clear. They're being diligent. They think the intersection is clear, but all of a sudden someone just 90-degree turns out in traffic. That's a very hard thing to predict. By pressing the button,
Right.
it
You're
lets you
saying,
know. It shows your intention to cross.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like using your turn signal as you're turning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes that works. Sometimes people leave them on. Yeah.
Yep. Train right to the world.
Yeah. No, I think that's it for me. I do know there was a complaint along Bic, but I think I've seen it kind of change of the LPIs in downtown, and it was very short on, and then it went to the countdown. It was on for like a second, and I think that's improved.
There are some. It's a brand new program for the controllers that we're learning. So we figured out what issue it was. We got it fixed now.
Okay, cool. And that's it for me.
All right. So I was wondering with the AI traffic detection, is this are these cameras also used to investigate crashes or criminal activity?
No, and I hold that question for the next presentation.
Okay, sounds good. And will your presentation have any? I know that in 2022 there was also sound cameras that were installed. I was wondering what came of those, or if that's your department.
That would be PD. Okay. I wasn't around when they were integrating those. I don't know if Jim or Phil have any information on the sound cameras, but last thing I knew is they didn't produce the results that were needed for adequate enforcement. Left a lot of gray area that was not enough confirmation to actually, make contact and make a citation.
Sounds good. Also, for the acyclica data analytics, it says that you could that there's data sharing across municipalities. What municipalities are currently being shared?
I think they had.
Looked like it was like Loveland.
So the ones we have currently. Yeah. So where's my little pointer? So this is Longmont right here, and Loveland has had a few of them out. They have the separate units, not the detection, that just do travel time, and the same thing for Greeley. So we're actually able to see travel times. So right now we can actually see how fast, how long, and how many people go from Campion to 66. So it's great information across sharing municipalities. I know Denver is looking into the AI cameras. They have a few. But right now, I believe Longmont's one of the biggest adopters for the new detection cameras.
Nice. Great. Well, thanks for your presentation.
Yep.
I've got a couple follow-ups.
Yep.
So in regards to the additional funding and consultant for evaluation of the existing site distance and recommendations to update city standards, I'm just curious about that because site distance is site distance. You're not going to change that in an intersection. So how's that going to change the city standards?
So that consultant is going to evaluate at several intersections throughout the city, not just signalized. So good examples are Old Town areas that are very dense, very tight. And a common complaint we have is people parking, closer to the intersection and they can't see to make a left or a right. This study is going to look at several intersections and provide recommendations on what the new city standard should be to create that sight distance triangle that's more safe for motorists as well as bicyclists and pedestrians so they can see and react to oncoming traffic. Right now, our sight distance triangle is a 30 by 30 triangle, which is very tight, and it's very hard, especially in our tighter areas. So we're looking to create a safe network, but we know why we have the consultant on board is if we do make these changes, it's going to severely impact residential properties, commercial properties. Based on safety is why we're pushing it, but we need to acknowledge that it's going to impact a lot of people's lives.
But don't narrow sight distances actually make roads safer?
Not when you're turning and you can't react to a car you can't see. So if you're...
I could probably pull up off my phone 5 studies that would show you that sight distance in terms of narrowing road diets make streets more safe, not less safe.
Well, the difference is
slow down.
Having clear sight distance that aren't blocked by cars. So I think a lot of those studies probably has concrete bulb outs and green spaces where you can see over them and see down the street. A good example, if you guys are leaving tonight, the 4th Avenue corridor, especially over by the St. John's School. If you go across there, those cars that park there during the day, it's very hard to see if someone's coming. And so you have to position yourself either from front or behind the crosswalk to see if there's any cars coming. And best case scenario, you have a little sliver of room to see if a car is coming.
Okay.
But there's an acceptable amount of distance, room for somebody to make a decision to stop or go.
Okay. And I just want to re-bring up. So you're saying the new system, because Board Member McKee Burrows asked as well, that you're actually able to add time to any ped phase that needs to have time added if somebody's walking slowly across.
Yeah. So started to include a pedestrian crossing the road. When I was recording, no one showed up, and I was on a time limit for this one. So it's bicycle detection. Can I pause this video? So you see the bikes coming in here. So before they come in, I know it's kind of white on black, so it's kind of hard to see. Oh, wait. There's my bookmark. See, it's kind of hard to see, but as this bicycle comes into this zone right here, it's kind of hard to see, but it'll light up and basically say there's a call for service, and it can extend that time for someone crossing. So this side would be a better view, but basically, see this one's black. It'll light up, and if there's a pedestrian or a bicyclist.
Is it a preset time?
It can be dynamic.
It can be dynamic.
Yep.
Based on the speed of the object?
So technically, yes, it takes some additional programming. But with these different types of zones, we can assign different outputs. And basically say, if someone's in the zone, give them this much time. If they're still in the zone, add 5 more seconds, and so on and so forth.
So can these corridors be timed for all modes of transportation? In other words, most adaptive and most coordination is based on vehicles. Is there a way to find a happy medium that would also satisfy a cyclist? Vehicles would have to slow down, and obviously pedestrians would be probably the one that would maybe be the biggest, I'll call it, loser in that equation. But would there be a way to coordinate signals to accommodate all modes of traffic?
There is a possibility for that. It would just depend on some of the analytics we get back, such as when I allude to bicycle timing and how fast bicyclists are going. We'd have to collect that information and see how fast a bicyclist is going on average to create a close plan. But
isn't your FLIR AI able to do that, though? Tell you?
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to tell you the objects and their speed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm not saying completely yes is going to be integrated, but there is availability, and having that information does open up that possibility, and having a data back decision instead of just trying to estimate based on 3 hours of observation.
Sure. Now, is that change or decision going to be made manually and by a human, or is it made by the system or intelligence built into the system?
Initially human, and then we can have the adaptive system kind of take over the day-to-day operations.
So the adaptive also controls the ped phases.
Those are set times, so that's a hard block. So it will not override and say give pedestrian less time. It can only add to the pedestrian times.
Okay, so adaptive can add to the pen phases.
Yes, it will not subtract though.
Okay,
So-
but it can add.
It can add.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. Let's see. I think that's everybody. You want to give your update so I can get some water?
Sure. Sorry, go ahead.
I just have two questions. They're pretty quick. How does it prioritize buses?
So buses have their separate preempt system. So they can have there's different options for it. GPS, there's little like frequency blasters that are on sales already that can tell that the bus is coming. And so depending on when it gets there, we can either say hold green or give the bus green.
But it's something that's on the bus.
Yeah, so it's something that the bus has that has to coordinate, that has to transmit data to the controller.
And does RTD or Flex already have this equipment?
They do in a few areas, but there is an active group within Denver, including Longmont, Boulder, about introducing bus rapid transit, which includes having that preemption system in place.
But if it doesn't
faster.
include it, would the city have to provide that to RTD or Flex? If
We work cooperatively.
okay. And then for slide 14, for the Wi-Fi enabled devices,
Yes.
is a user opting into this, or is it just their SSID that's broadcasting and it's picking up, so they're not actually having to opt into something? How is it?
So the nice thing about this versus some other systems is if you want to opt out, the best thing to do is shut off your Wi-Fi.
So it's not an app that a
we're-
user has to
No,
download
you have to
or anything?
download it. We're not force turning on anything. It's because they're transmitting that data freely.
Okay.
So if they like to opt out, best thing to do is shut off your Wi-Fi when you're not using it.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
And that'd be the same with any wireless network of how that works as well.
I've got about 10 minutes.
That's fine. I just want some water.
This is the part of the program where we say, and now it's time for something completely different. But, yeah. But Kyle will be back, so just a moment while we get the next. We're going to do the Flex Bus real quick, if that's okay with everybody. And I'll give you some preamble on that as well. Do you want to go, or do you want?
Maybe Flex Bus, you already did your introduction.
Yeah, so good segue. Board member Kalkofer, that's the bus. It's bus time. So let's talk a little bit about Flex and Transport. And my apologies, I really did want somebody from Transport to be here tonight to present to you tonight about this and really give you the expert view. What can happen and what I do plan to happen is when we start to talk about the contract and the intergovernmental agreement that we do every year with Flex, we can have them come up and give you a fuller and more detailed presentation. But this is a real quick one. I'm going to read a little bit from their presentation. They're kind enough to give me some information to help share with you what's going on with the Flex. So you know about the Flex a little bit. I think I've heard some people talk about writing it, so that's great. It is a regional partnership. It really does operate along 287 mostly, and then now 119 down to Boulder. So it operates Monday through Saturday. It's been a free ride since the pandemic. So once the pandemic came, they decided to not worry about fare collection because of the different issues with touching and germs and those kind of things. So they kind of turned it off, and now they've approached us and said, well, we need to put in all new fare equipment, but it's going to cost X millions of dollars, right? So we can either just keep it fare free and not put that in and not charge ourselves that and not charge you this and keep it free, or we can try to put this back in. And we've kind of, our idea was really, we wanted the fares to come back just to give some value to the service, because as people are using the service for free, there has been some abuse on the system, I'll be quite frank with you. And so there is an idea that if you were to charge, you might keep some of that abuse down. And so, but at this point, we're going to just say it's going to continue as free because it's easier for everyone and it costs less for everyone. And it's kind of the right thing to do for people without the means to afford transportation. So this used to be called the Foxtrot route when it ran just from Loveland to Fort Collins. Then we kind of got our noses into it and wanted them to serve Longmont. And there was an opportunity there to really get a grant. They wanted to get the grant to extend service. They thought Longmont made the most sense. It was really the first time that we saw this other type of public transit in the Regional Transportation District, which is RTD. So it was a good incursion into that RTD system. So we really appreciated that. And then when they started additional express service to Boulder in 2016, so they got another grant, and we extended that service even further into Boulder. So now you have a CU to CSU connection, which this week really means a lot because the big rivalry is Saturday, the Rocky Mountain Showdown, right? So there are 3 variations to the route. There's the F1, which really does just serve Fort Collins to Loveland, so it's that old Foxtrot route. There's the Fort Collins to Longmont only, which serves, let me just read this. They, so the Foxtrot or the Loveland and Fort Collins route serves 17 southbound trips and 19 northbound trips per weekday. This F2 serves basically 9 trips in both directions per weekday. So that's 9 trips going to Longmont every day, back both directions. And then the F3, which is that service to Boulder that we talked about, that also serves Longmont, quite frankly. And that express runs 6 trips both south and north per weekday. So those are the variations of the route. What's happened, and you might kind of expect this, is that with the idea that a bolt route between Boulder and Longmont costs a certain amount of money, still has a fare charged. Some folks are using this to get on the, make that trip, but they're not supposed to technically. So RTD kind of has a provision with this Flex Bus to not allow riders to get on in Longmont to go to Boulder. And you're not supposed to let people off who get on in Boulder in Longmont, but it's impossible, right? So these things are happening, and it's just the way. I mean, it's just the reality. So everybody kind of looks right. Yeah, you can't get off the plane. So just to let you know some of those things. And then we have a funding chart that really talks more about how we do the different types of dollars for this. And you'll see how it's broken down, at least in 2022, when this chart was provided to us. The 2023 stuff wasn't quite complete at the time. They had done some original operating costs for 2023, but had not put together the numbers for that yet. And I'll just say that we just paid an invoice for $144,439, which you can see how that compares to 22. So we've gone down quite a bit, and that's really because Transport's been really good about getting grants for this route, and especially with the IIJ or the IIJA grant dollars and all the federal dollars that have come into these systems, they've been able to cut down our costs, which has been great. So we only paid $144,439 just a couple of days ago, right, Jim? Right. So, and that ridership and those numbers are really based on those numbers of costs. The funding amounts that we provide are really based on over the years of ridership. So you'll see 7.03 shown here. I think it's gone up to 7.28% was the more latest number that we paid for the 2024 number. So our ridership always hovers around that 7 to 8% number, which is good, and that's how we determine the percentage that we pay. So let me see. They also say that they have a total of 138,638 riders for the year. we'll kind of show a little bit of how that looks on a chart. And these are kind of tough to read, but it's what we have. You'll see that yellow line that dips way down in May of 2020 is our pandemic. And so the ridership went basically down to zero because they stopped service. And then they picked it back up again in June, very moderate service. And you can see that numbers were tough to come back. But then over the years, so the 2019 number is that blue line at the top. And you'll see that gold line then takes off from there and then starts to fall pretty precipitously. So it was going on a fairly typical track of what we were seeing in 2019, in 2020, and then the pandemic. And then those other lines, the green, the blue, the red, and now the purple, all are those different indicators as we get those different years going as far as 2021, 22, 23, and then 24 is the purple. And you can see that we are making some adjustments that are getting us back to some of those more 2019 numbers, which is good to see. But I would want to ask Flex what's going on with the 2023 number and the 2024 number there for August. But we usually see a spike in ridership with the schools coming back online, so that might be part of it. And we may not have complete numbers from that August piece as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this gets into later months as we go forward. But this does give you an idea. This is a per month basis. So you see about the highest was about 20,000 per that October of 2019. So we were moving, we always like to compare this to car traffic. And so you just saw a bunch of numbers showing car traffic. Of course, we don't know how many times the same car went through that intersection. We pretty much know that probably the same riders are riding every day. So that's another piece of this, is how many new riders versus those consistent riders that we get. But you can see that there's been pretty good growth over the years. Well, there was pretty good growth up until 2019, and now we're starting to build it back.
Quick question though, is ridership, is there any sort of effort made to understand the demographics of the ridership, or do we make the assumption that it's more college-based because we see the numbers spike in September and October and that sort of thing? I'm just curious.
Well, we'd have to get Transport in here and really ask them those questions, because that would have to be based on survey data. With the fare structure, you can, if you have the fare on your phone and you've given some information about who you are as a rider, we can get some of that information maybe from RTD, those type of things. But I'm not sure, with nobody showing any kind of fare and people just walking on, you'd almost have to survey each or make observations of each individual, and that won't tell you anything about economics or anything either. So you really need to ask the questions, and I don't know if they've done that. So
It seems like they would be able to understand that. How did they get back to 2019?
Right. Yeah, and we've seen some very significant changes in that with transit. So you're right, that's a great question to ask, and we'll make sure they come back with that one. Well, and we can find that information out as well, and I can ask that demographic question easily, and we can get that to you in email if they have it. The next piece is really those future goals for Transport, and this is the part where I really wish they were here to talk more about this, but they do talk about the Transit Master Plan, so how their future looks. That demand for regional services, is it growing? That kind of gets back to some of your demographic questions, and maybe they're running at the wrong times if it's talking about commuter trips versus those, maybe more of those weekend trips, because that's when the students are traveling more, is the weekends. And they're always trying to grow our partnerships, and that's been great. So we have a number of different communities that are working together. You saw the list of Loveland, Berthoud, Longmont, Boulder, Larimer County, Boulder County, Fort Collins. They do want to add some new services. We do want them to grow their services, so we're asking them to increase it so that there's more ridership. But when we talk about the microtransit service piece of this and talk about getting service out to that mobility hub, we're trying to get Longmont residents out to a different Mustang type service that's already running on that corridor and connecting Fort Collins with Denver with us. And so there's other issues there too. And I think the Flex is trying to be very cognizant of the different markets that are being served. So that is maybe more of a commuter shed on I-25, and this could be more of maybe that weekend piece and off-peak times that aren't really commuter. And then I'm not sure what the increased sustainability means, if that's sustainability of the network or if that's sustainability for more environmental pieces. But I'll check my notes here and just try to see that they are trying to. Transport also has a goal of converting their bus fleet to battery electric by 2040 in accordance with the Fort Collins City Sustainability Program. So as of fall of 2024, Transport operates 5 electric buses on their local routes and is working on the additional more of these buses and the infrastructure to support them. They also talk about running on compressed natural gas. We don't know if that's renewable or not, but we do have that capability in the city of Longmont with our trash trucks. So we are always trying to sell that service because we always have an excess or surplus of that. So we're always trying to talk these bus companies into maybe going to a RNG type service, renewable natural gas, rather than just a compressed. And then, of course, for more info, visit their pages at ridetransport.com. And they have some pretty good schedules out there if you do have interest in going up to Fort Collins or down to Boulder. We say that on the side. Go ahead and check their schedules and see. We have a couple of stops in Longmont, so we do have what is now the Bross and 8th, Bross and Longs Peak stop, where we moved all the buses over there. They also have stops along, it was hard to tell from that map, but they have a stop along 9th. When they're going to Boulder, they don't come into the Bross Street station. They keep going west out to Hover, and they go down that way. They like that service because that doesn't cross any railroad tracks like RTD does have to. So there are some options out there for how to get around with using the service. And if you check those schedules, you'll see more. So thank you from Transport. I'll be their spokesperson for now. Any questions? Any more questions?
I'm gonna guess you probably don't know, but do you know what what times they're planning on increasing their services to? Because I mean I used to take it every day as a commuter, and there was 3 buses one way and 3 buses the other way, and that was it. And it's pretty limiting unless you're going in those particular times. So it sounds like they're planning on having more times of their buses, but I was just wondering if you knew.
My understanding is that they are looking at who's using the buses now and those demands that they get from folks just calling in. It used to be that they were trying to interline with the RTD bus system, so they could get to Boulder on the Bolt and make that connection, but without, with the direct service now, that's not as necessary. It was also a really great place in Longmont to make a connection between Fort Collins and Denver before the bus staying, or if you wanted to get to places in between here in Denver, like Broomfield, Lafayette, those kind of places. Those transport buses offered that great connection in Longmont to make those happen. But obviously with RTD service being limited, it's not quite the case anymore. We're trying to get some of that bus service back, but they are, and I can get that information too, they are monitoring their customers. They do a really great job actually of talking to their customers about what the needs are. So we'll talk to them and see what kind of bus service they're talking about coming back and when.
Okay, yeah, because it's pretty limited right now, so.
Thanks for the presentation. I know you're presenting this on behalf of them, so if you don't have the answers, no sweat. But how's the involvement with the City of Longmont and the Flex partnership complement or conflict with RTD services? And is there any discussions to further integrate these services together so there's more regional connectivity?
Right. We kind of talked about that in that last question about the idea that before there was a great connecting point at 8th and Kaufman to get to other services. And our thought is in the future, in 2027, hopefully, once we build out the First and Main station, that we'll have all the kind of transit activity happen at that location. And so the Flex bus will go there on its way to Boulder. The LD buses that were once pretty robust in their service between here and Denver will come back at some level. We are working with RTD to bring back the direct buses from Longmont to downtown Denver. They won't run as expresses initially, but they will at least run to downtown Denver, which is great. And then those buses to Boulder. And we're talking about getting buses out east as well on 119. So looking at that next phase of the 119 corridor, we've done a lot of work from here to Boulder, and you're going to see a lot of that construction coming in the next couple of months here. the next piece of it is to look out to the east and get to the tri-towns there too. But I don't know if that really answers your question, but it is the idea of kind of bringing all those things together in one transit hub in Longmont and trying to really be that base.
Is there good coordination between the different services to align services? So if somebody's trying to go from Fort Collins to Denver, they can get on, I don't know if Mustang is ever going to come here, but would there be coordination between routes and schedules to align so somebody's, transferring pretty seamlessly?
So RTD does attend those meetings that we have on a quarterly basis with Flex Bus folks. And so they are involved with the interlining of those buses and making sure that as the Flex gets there and if there's transfers that need to be made, their buses are, that 5 minutes behind so that they can make those connections. But you have to do it the other way as well, right? So they're trying to work they do a lot of communication between the two groups to make sure that they're working together. And as one changes some routes and those timings, the other one can react.
Super. Great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, I'm back. So Cammy kind of talked about this earlier. It's kind of a small/big Vision Zero update for our safety improvements for all roadway users. So city staff were successfully attained a federal funded grant. We learned just like last week for a total of $1.5 million. With 20% of city match, so that's $300,000. A great reason for this is we're looking at creating a safety or an action plan for Vision Zero with help of a consultant. So that money that is for the $350,000 was potentially something that we would have to eat regardless. So basically, we got more bang for our buck than we would have if we've not applied for this grant. Along with that is another intersection sight distance study to evaluate our sight distance, stopping sight distance, and updating our parking and development standards for sight distance on our intersections. And then the big portion of it is smart technology demonstration pilot for $900,000. That includes procurement of equipment, installation, as well as consultant services to help us go through some of that data and create a report and then look at how we can change our signalization options and roadway signage to maybe increase safety across these intersections that we select for all road users. So the smart technology demonstration portion is to deploy a system called DIRC to 10 intersections in Longmont. We haven't nailed down which intersections we want, but you could probably assume majority of them. So I'm a firm believer that when someone issues a concern or calls us about, hey, I almost got hit by a car or had to jump out of the way, I love to believe everyone I can talk to, but it's really hard without, unless you didn't have proof of it, I don't know if it actually happened, so it makes it really hard to make, a real change. This system records and detects near-miss incidents between vehicles and vehicles, vehicles on PEDs, vehicles on bikes and PEDs, as well as some other safety evaluations. This allows us to evaluate intersection safety and make changes proactively versus waiting for someone to get hit. So you remember the spelling, it's DERQ. Most people get that wrong. So if you ever see some news reports or other updates, it's DERQ, not DIRK, or another spelling, DERQ. So we're going to start off a little strong. I will alert you to any potential distressing videos, but these ones, no one's already hitting these videos. This is explicitly near miss detection. So top left, it detects a car right there, pedestrian on the bottom right in blue, making a flashing yellow turn. does not see a pedestrian, pedestrian has to veer out of the way. This is a great example is this happens every day at every intersection, but the issue is we don't know when it happens, and that is not reported unless someone calls us, and it's still a hearsay statement. Here's another one at night. Similar setup, taking a left, same corner, doesn't see pedestrian with their dog and has to move out of the way. Potentially a person who doesn't move as well, can't jump out of the way, so a less attentive driver may have hit this person. Got another nighttime. Another thing is decided to go out on the road. This is why I like pressing the button. Person was standing at the corner for some time and then decided they wanted to go. It's unfair to people in all situations. The person doesn't deserve to be hit, but also it's great to have some notification of who's crossing and when they're crossing, whether it's early or late in the cycle. Last one, daytime, taking a right. And pedestrian comes from a shaded area behind, potentially by the pole, but the vehicles are usually looking for people in the crosswalk, not behind them. So this is good, support for additional measures to improve safety. In addition to this, bicycle incident detection. For bicyclists, it does give back more enhanced information such as speed and direction, as well as car, vehicle, and direction. So there it is. So sorry if it's hard to read from your guys' side. But classify passenger car going 10 miles per hour, making a left turn south, going eastbound, with the bicyclist going through in the southbound direction. And another one, whoops. I love PowerPoint. There we go. All right, this is a bicyclist going against the light. So instances where we get told, hey, I almost got hit on my bike. Someone was going through the light. I had the green. No, cross traffic did. So it's a good informational piece of maybe there's not information for people crossing that they need to wait. Another nighttime scenario, taking a left on a flashing yellow arrow, walking the bike across, a little late in the cycle, but then a stop, and even the second person past that person does not see individual in the crosswalk. Bicycles going fast, even a person checked there before if anyone's went across, it's very hard to see. And that scenario, person taking the left also is trying to cut a gap. So look at the distance between when they're turning and potential impacts to cars. Maybe make that turn, they get hit. Person gets cited because they took a left, but reports failed to say that there's a bicyclist that went against the light. So it gives us police and us engineers more information about why things happen the way they do. Another great thing is wrong way detection. Unless you're there, you do not see it. And it happens more than you think. Taking a left, this is a concrete divided intersection. So there's no way to cross. That's at 5:35 a.m. Still going. Let's see. This one is at night at almost 4 a.m. I don't trust my clicker anymore. So late at night and going pretty decently fast. There we go. Went through the left turn lane thinking it was a straight lane. Yeah. Here's another one. Let's see. Going through and the light turns red. So impatient driver goes around the front car who correctly stops to make a left turn, while if you notice in the bottom part of the screen, there are pedestrians waiting to cross. So potentially that would have turned green. And as people are still crossing the road. And this is one of my favorites. This is from when I was demoing this equipment back in my previous city in North Glen, Colorado. It's at Huron 104th. This is a police chase at about noon. I think it was a weekday. First car is a guy running. The rest are police in pursuit. So when it comes to scene recreation and maybe training for police officers or any law enforcement, I don't know the protocols, but I don't know if it's the best way to catch people. But it does make good learning moments for everyone involved. Oh, now it works. Here, a fun one: red light violations. So these actually connect to our traffic controllers, and it can share the signal phase status for the signal heads as well as the pedestrian buttons. So it'll know when the walk is on or the solid hand is on. This tracks time in red. So once the light turns red, it'll actually track how long that vehicle crossed the intersection while it was in red, as well as speed and direction. So the first one is 74 miles per hour at almost 5 o'clock. It'll light them up. So yellow, top right, so it's a color, red, through the intersection. Is that 17th and Main here? Yes. So 17th and Main. This is a demo for a few months. And that was part of this grant, is we provide this information of what we're getting back so we could attain this grant. 10 minutes, okay. Is that using your detection? Nope, this is separate. So you can see right here it's red. 22 seconds in red, 19 miles per hour. So not be going fast, but very red. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. This is icy road conditions, 6 a.m. Straight through, almost 3 seconds in red, going 37 miles per hour. And this is 50 miles per hour going southbound. And we got a couple people too. So it actually captured all the vehicles that were turning red, but you can see it's yellow right now, and this person's all the way back here. So when we're talking about future enforcement options or station patrols, we can provide this information with the context to see when and how often it happens. Why not red light cameras? We are working on talking with PD and some possible options. You'll hear some new information here soon. So this is crash detection. This is also this one's in North Glen. This is a great one that doesn't get detected. So these guys have a green arrow turning left. Bicyclist comes in and almost gets hit twice. But these are reports that are never reported back to PD, aka to us. This is 17th and Main again, icy conditions. And then similar thing, icy conditions, going south, it doesn't bother to stop. And so we're conducting investigations. It makes it a lot easier to say who's at wrong. I think this is the one I'm thinking about. If you don't want to see some distressing footage, no one was killed, but this is a great video of what it can detect for bicyclists. I feel okay more showing this one because the person in the bike actually just stole this bike from the gas station and is running away. He's at the top right. And vehicle's just got a green. And he was okay. But, gives context to the person who inadvertently hit somebody because there was no scenario where they could possibly see him with the truck blocking their view when they had the green indication. I'll go through these fast. It gives us analytics, so day of week, when they happen, what direction they happen, what lane they happen in, month by month, quarter by quarter, week by week, before and afters. So we're making changes. We can do that. We can filter by lanes, type of hits. So it's cut off, rear end, lane change, broadside, east, west, south through, left, right, all that good stuff. Heat maps and location, so we can see when it's happening. Another great feature is more counting and classification. So it brings up redundancy to our system so we can verify our data is correct. And if we have two data sets that are good and one that's can be thrown out, we know which one's wrong and make corrections. So we're working with good data that's scrutinized. Loading, multimodal counts. It'll also count bicyclists and pedestrians at intersections and what time of day too. And speed compliance. So it'll track speed and track overspeeding. So you can see how fast people go. So 0 to 9 over, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 15 to 39. Sorry, there's actual speeds, not over speeds. And then you see what percentage people are 40, 49, and 50 plus. So that's that DIRC system that we're bringing to 10 intersections of the city. Sorry, I was a little fast trying to beat the clock, but happy to answer any quick questions.
Thanks for that presentation. That was intense. So there's a lot of data that you get with this, but what is the actionable items once you have this data? Like what can you do to improve any of this?
So the biggest hurdle we have when we make signal changes is there's going to be populations for and against it. And so when we're bringing these changes to our intersections that may be significant and alter how people navigate through Longmont, we're providing that context and that information.
So this is the backup for implementing new change. So,
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
What does DIRC stand for?
It's just DIRC. It's just a name. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you for all the information, Kyle and Transport Phil. And we can go to comments from board members. I'll start on this end.
Yes, great discussion. And I got to check out Spring Gulch too, and it was amazing. Oh, okay. I was too busy living my best life. So, yeah, it was, yeah. And also, yeah, I saw other people, obviously not closely on if they were familiar faces, but, yeah, there was, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that people are already on the trail and, yeah, it looks really nice. So, if you have not had a chance to check it out, please do. Otherwise, yeah, that's all for me.
Again, great presentations. Is there going to be a ribbon cutting for Spring Gulch Trail? And, publish it in the paper and... Okay. All right. Good to know. And then kind of one announcement for the group is another group I'm involved in. We have invited the founder of Strong Towns this Thursday, September 12th at 6 p.m. at the Heart of Longmont Church. So please come. It'll be talking about housing, their new book. I invite all and staff to come, but there is going to be a $5 charge, but the money will go to the townhome project that the church is building. So thank you.
Couple of things. So I got to attend the Transportation Summit. I don't know, whenever it was, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, whenever it was. And that's always interesting to kind of see the broader picture of what the state is planning on doing, and obviously the focus was on rail, so that's always a exciting but disappointing subject at the same time, because it's often similar story to last year was we really wanted to make it happen, but we're about 15 steps away. So it's good to attend though, because then at least you kind of learning about the process and seeing a little bit behind the scenes of what actually goes on into making these projects actually come to fruition. And my other comment is that I'm organising an event as part of my job, but it's all about transportation and home electrification. It's called Electrify Longmont. It's being sponsored by the city, and Transportation Department will be there, as well as being sponsored by Sustainability and LPC. So if you are interested in attending, it's going to be on October 6th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the fairgrounds. So it's going to be all about electrification, EVs, e-bikes, solar panels, everything you can think about that uses electric will be there. So
I also want to thank staff for the presentations, very informative. No further questions.
Same. I'd like to just call out. I really appreciate seeing the videos too of these incidents because I work from home, so I really don't see how bad y'all are driving, and it's really surprising to me. And I really appreciate it. And I was just at Fort Collins for the first time, and I really liked it too. And now knowing about Transport, I was like, oh, I'll go back again now. So thank you.
Thank you for all the presentations, and I know that was a lot to get through. Biking is not my main mode of transportation. It's car, bus, walking. You all inspired me to get on my bike more, and I started going on the Greenway, and it's amazing. And I'm really proud of the infrastructure that we have, and like you all, I want to continue to build on what we have. But thanks for that inspiration to get me back on a bike, and hopefully my kids will get on a bike sometime soon when I'm a little bit more comfortable with Vision Zero kind of coming to fruition and things being a little bit more safer. I don't want to be on any of those videos that you demonstrate in the future. But thank you all. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for all the information and the presentations. I'm really struck by the fact that since I've been here, we've really moved from, I won't say single mode, but we've really started to embrace a variety of modes of transportation or mobility, really, more importantly. And I think that's a great move by us, by the city, and kind of celebrating that. So that's all I want to say. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments. And since Councilmember Yarbrough's not here, we can move on to our items for the upcoming agenda, which is scheduled for October 14th, would be the microtransit kickoff and the vaulted crash report. We sure we're on schedule for that, Phil?
We think we are, yes. There has been a request to move it to the next week, but I don't know. I think we'll just keep this at our regular second Monday. But there has been a request if we could move it to the third Monday, but
For October?
yes.
Yeah, well,
If people already have conflicts, if there's not going to be a lot of
I have a
folks-
conflict. I
Okay.
won't be here.
I will also not be here.
What would you think about going to the 21st?
That is good.
Does the
I mean, it works
21st
for
work
me.
for everybody?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, dang it.
because I'll be returning from Gina's homeland that day. Well,
So
that weekend.
So we want to look at then October 21st.
Yes, if that works for everybody, we would
Okay.
appreciate that change, and I'll make that change.
If
in,
any board members find that it's a conflict, maybe just shoot an email to Diane, and then that way we can coordinate what the responses would be. Yeah.
we got to make sure Diane can make it too.
Yeah,
Are you there? Okay.
Okay. All right. So we've gotten that.
Oh, do we need to do a motion to change the date?
Do we need to make a motion to change the date, Phil?
That would be wonderful. If
Okay.
you could.
If I can get a motion to change the date to October 21st for the next meeting?
I will motion to change our next meeting date to October 21st from the 14th.
And if I could get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, great. And then last, we just have to get a movement to adjourn and we can call it a night.
Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.